Today, we're lifting the lid on something that doesn't often get named, but it's quietly shaping the way you lead, the way you plan, and the way you show up. You're strategic, you're visionary, you're always thinking 5 steps ahead, and it's one of the things people admire most about you. But what if that brilliant strategic mind of yours is doing more than just solving problems? What if it's also protecting you? Today, we're talking about the shadow side of strategy, not because strategy is bad, it's not, but because sometimes being the smartest person in the room is the perfect place to hide. Let's get started, shall we?
You're the one they turn to, the calm one, the capable one, the one with the answers. And yet, beneath it all, you know there's more available for you. More energy, more clarity, more unshakable presence. Welcome to Project Joyful, the podcast for health-centered leaders. I'm Tracy Tutty. Here, we speak to the part of you that knows leadership isn't about doing more. It's about becoming more fully who you are. So let's begin, shall we?
So let's start by talking about the sneakiest part of this. When strategy becomes self-protection, it can feel powerful, even productive, but underneath it's exhausting. Because when we use our intellect to avoid our emotions, we lose access to the very instincts that make us powerful, connected leaders. So let's talk about how high-level thinking can become emotional avoidance and how you can shift out of it without losing your edge. So let's start by talking about strategy. It's one of those words that commands respect. When someone's called a strategic thinker, it's a compliment. It means you're thoughtful, insightful, future-focused. You're not reacting, you're orchestrating. But what is strategy really? At its core, strategy is a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term aim. It's how we connect the dots between where we are now and where we want to be, intelligently, efficiently, with intention. And for high-performing women, strategy becomes a kind of superpower. It helps you rise above the noise, detach from the emotion, and focus on what matters. I used to be known for having a plan for a plan. I remember leading my finance team during a particularly messy system implementation. The new finance platform was spitting out duplicate data and nothing reconciled. So I flagged it to my CEO. And when he asked, so how do we fix that? I didn't flinch. I told him, don't worry, I've got a plan. And I did. In fact, I had 3. I had a primary fix, I had a fallback strategy, and a backup for the backup, each mapped out with contingencies and decision points. He smiled because he knew that, well, I always had a plan. You see, I've been able to do that for most of my life. My grandfather taught me chess as a child, and I could see 3 moves ahead before I even knew what strategy meant. Strategic thinking's a gift, but sometimes it becomes a shield. And it wasn't until much later that I realized constantly planning wasn't just about being prepared. It was about feeling safe. But here's the paradox. That same strength, the ability to think 3 moves ahead, can become the perfect disguise for avoidance. Because strategic thinking feels safe. It's clean, it's analytical, it gives you the illusion of control, and most importantly, it keeps you out of the messy middle. The middle where emotions live. The middle where hard conversations happen. The middle where you might be asked to feel something you've spent a lifetime managing away. But the middle's also where the magic happens. The thing you didn't plan for, the insight that lands out of nowhere, the moment of connection that only arrives when you're not managing the outcome. When you always have a plan for the plan, you might avoid disaster, yes, but you might also miss the very thing that would have changed everything. And not because you're scattered or inconsistent, far from it. The women I work with are the most consistent people in the room. But that level of precision can become a kind of perfectionism, one that leaves no space for surprise, serendipity, or soul. So how does this actually show up? Because on the surface, it looks like leadership, right? You're making plans, you're thinking ahead, you're coaching your team. But when strategy becomes self-protection, the symptoms are subtle and surprisingly consistent. So let's look at a few examples. Here's some that have come up with my clients lately. Skipping one-on-ones with your team. You tell yourself everyone's busy, that they're fine, that one more week won't matter. So you push it out. 1 week becomes 2, then 3, then a month. It's not intentional. It's just, it's one more thing that you don't have the bandwidth for right now. Because holding space for a real conversation, that's more of you than you want to admit. And you're not just avoiding the meeting, you're avoiding the potential of what might come up in that meeting. An honest conversation might reveal something that you're not ready to deal with. When your internal world already feels a little shaky, a little overloaded, why would you want to invite in more uncertainty? So you retreat into the strategic thing, the task list, the forecast, the quarterly plan. It feels productive, clean. But your people, they feel the drift. They feel your absence. How about this one? You revisit the plan again and again and again, but you never make the decision. You call it being thorough. You say you're protecting the business, and to a point you are. But here's a deeper truth. You're protecting yourself from risk, from criticism, from being wrong, because choosing means committing, and committing means vulnerability. So you polish, you reframe, you seek more data, but nothing ever feels solid enough to move. Meanwhile, your team is waiting. They're quietly losing confidence. They start second-guessing themselves, holding back, mirroring your hesitation. And over time, your culture and your team shifts. No one feels safe to decide. And no one remembers exactly when that started, just that the year got heavy and the pace got slow. Or how about this one? Coaching others through their mindset blocks, but never getting coached yourself. Because you're the steady one, the insightful one, the one people come to for clarity. And it works because, let's face it, you are brilliant. You're grounded, you've done the work. But here's another truth, one that's harder to say out loud. You don't feel safe letting anyone coach you. Because what if you unravel? What if you don't have the emotional or energetic bandwidth to put yourself back together in time for your next leadership meeting or the school pickup? So you avoid the risk of the unravel. You avoid the discomfort of being seen mid-process. And you keep performing at 99%. All the while secretly wondering why the last 1% feels so heavy. But your team can feel that 1%. The way your body tightens ever so slightly when someone challenges you. The way you deflect vulnerability with polished wisdom. You've built a brilliant strategy for holding it all together. And that brilliance can quietly become a burden. So what's really going on here? It's easy to assume that it's just how leadership works, right? That the pressure's normal, that the decision fatigue, the hyper preparedness, the performance, it's just the price of being excellent. Except that it's not. What looks like strategy is often sophisticated self-protection, a carefully constructed system your subconscious created to keep you safe, to avoid uncertainty, to stay in control, to make sure no one sees the part of you that feels deep down like you're still earning your place at the table. Because here's the truth. When your nervous system doesn't feel safe in the seat that you've already earned, you'll keep trying to prove yourself over and over again, using the one thing you know works, your mind. And it will work until it doesn't. Until the team starts pulling back, until the joy leaks out of your work, until your leadership starts to feel more like performance than presence. And here's what doesn't get talked about enough. That kind of leadership is exhausting. Not just end of the day tired. It's the tired that lives in your bones, the tired that no amount of sleep can fix. Because it's not time exhaustion, it's identity exhaustion. When your body is constantly scanning for danger, wondering, is it safe to be fully seen here? You burn through your energy faster than you realize. It's biological, it's primal, and it shows up in ways that feel subtle but are deeply draining. The tension in your jaw during meetings, the extra coffee just to feel on, the emotional buffer zone you keep putting between yourself and your team. Every one of those patterns costs energy to maintain. And that's energy you can't use anywhere else. It's not available for visionary thinking. It's not available for being fully present with your team. It's not available for your creative spark or that quiet intuition you used to trust. The energy that's being spent on keeping out the armor could actually be used to fuel your brilliance. Because strategy can only take you so far. At some point, your energy has to do the leading, and energy doesn't lie. And this sophisticated self-protection doesn't just affect your team. It follows you home, into your relationships, into your parenting, into those quiet moments at night when you've ticked all the boxes but still feel unsettled. Because you've spent the day leading from your head, managing, strategizing, controlling, without ever pausing to ask, what part of me is still performing? And when you don't feel safe in your seat at work, you can't just turn that off at 5 p.m. You keep proving, you keep scanning, you keep subtly shape-shifting, even at home. Your child has a meltdown, and instead of meeting them with compassion, your inner response is, I don't have time for this. I've got a meeting at 9 a.m. I need to sleep. Your partner asks you how your day was, and you give them the executive summary. Not because you're hiding, but because you genuinely don't have the energy to drop the armor. You're exhausted. And not in a busy week kind of way. The leadership mask is still on, and your system doesn't know how to exhale. This is how the compartmentalization starts to crack. Because you're not just overthinking at work. You're living in your head everywhere. And when your body never gets to land, you lose the very thing you're trying to protect. Your presence, your power, your peace. Now, I see this a lot with high-performing women who are brilliant on the outside and they're tired on the inside. They come to me because they've mastered the strategic game. What seems to be missing is the feeling of safety in their own leadership. Safety to soften. Safety to decide. Safety to lead with energy, not just effort. And that's where we begin. At the level of your identity, rewiring the subconscious patterns that keep you in performance mode. I see the energetic misalignments before they become symptoms, and I help you shift them gently, powerfully, permanently. I see them because I've walked this path too. And my journey evolved into a self-discovery about bridging what's known with what's felt. Because I used to be that strategic queen, always 10 steps ahead, always with a plan for the plan. My mind was sharp, my strategy was solid, but I couldn't feel what my body was trying to tell me. I ignored the tension, the tiredness, the disconnect, because the plan said I was fine. I was a necker-upper, living from the chin up, which meant I disregarded my intuition. And while my decisions looked brilliant on paper, there were moments where I missed the mark, or I had to course correct because I hadn't listened deeply enough. It took slowing down to realize I actually wasn't leading. I was performing safety. And it was costing me my joy, my presence, and my power. I learned the hard way that it simply wasn't sustainable. Now I'm still that strategic queen, but now I lead from both my mind and my body, from clarity and felt wisdom. That's the evolution. and it's available to you too. If something in today's episode stirred something in you, pause with that. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't need a 5-point plan. Sometimes the most strategic move you can make is to be seen by someone who already sees you. If you're curious about what this could look like for you, you're welcome to book a free clarity session with me. There's a link in the show notes. It's not a sales call, it's a space for you, for what's rising, for what's next. Sending you lots of love. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for listening to today's podcast. Can I ask you a favour? If our conversation spoke to you today, could you please take a moment to leave a 5-star review? Your review will help people discover this podcast, and together we can create a world where there's even more love and more laughter. And if you want to hear more from the Project Joyful podcast, just click the subscribe button. Bye for now.